Have you ever felt a wall go up between you and someone you love? A wall built from old arguments, harsh words, and silence? This is the story of a house divided, and how two small words, spoken from the heart, finally made that wall come tumbling down. Let me tell you about the Carter family. For years, their home was full of warmth. Mark and Sarah, they'd been married for over 20 years. Their son Jacob was in his final year of high school. From the outside, a perfect picture. But on the inside, a cold war had begun. It started with little things. A forgotten chore. A sarcastic remark about long work hours. A disappointed sigh when grades weren't perfect. They weren't big fights. No shouting matches. It was worse. It was a slow, quiet freeze. Conversations became just transactions. Dinner's ready. I'll be home late. Need money for school. Love was still there, but it was buried under a mountain of resentment and unmet expectations. Mark felt like nothing he did was ever enough for his family. Sarah felt completely alone, carrying the weight of the house. And Jacob? He just felt the tension, a constant pressure in the air, and he buried himself in his room, in his phone, anywhere but with them. The family dinners were the worst. Just the sound of cutlery on plates. 3 people, living in the same house, but feeling a million miles apart. The breaking point came on a Tuesday. A completely ordinary Tuesday. Jacob had an important science project. He'd asked his dad a week ago to help him build the base for it. Mark promised, "Sure, son. This weekend." But work got crazy. A big project of his own. He came home late, exhausted. The weekend came and went. The base wasn't built. Sunday night, Jacob looked at his dad, his eyes hurt. "You promised." Mark, stressed and guilty, snapped. "You think I work all day for fun? You're old enough to do it yourself." Sarah jumped in, her voice tight. "Don't yell at him. You broke your promise. Again." And that was it. The quiet freeze became a glacier. Mark slept in the guest room. Sarah didn't make his coffee the next morning. Jacob left for school without a word. For 3 days, they moved around each other like ghosts. The house was a museum of their past happiness, and every room echoed with what was lost. Sarah's heart ached. She looked at her husband, this stranger she'd built a life with, and she missed him. She looked at her son, closing himself off, and she was terrified. But pride is a powerful thing. She thought, why should I speak first? I'm not the one who's always absent. Mark's pride was just as great. I work my fingers to the bone for them, and this is the thanks I get? Then, on the 4th night, something shifted. It was Jacob. He'd been watching this silence, feeling the weight of it all. He remembered a quote from an old teacher, "Gratitude is the memory of the heart." He had an idea. It felt small. Maybe stupid. But the silence was so loud, he had to try. He didn't say anything to his parents. He simply took 2 pieces of paper from his notebook. At the top of one, he wrote Dad. At the top of the other, Mom. And he started to write. Not a letter. Just a list. Simple things. On his dad's paper he wrote, "Thank you for teaching me to ride a bike. Thank you for the dumb jokes that actually make me laugh. Thank you for working so hard. Thank you for that time you stayed up with me when I was sick." On his mom's paper, "Thank you for my favorite sandwiches. Thank you for your hugs. Thank you for listening, even when I don't say much. Thank you for keeping our home safe." His handwriting wasn't perfect. His words weren't fancy. They were just true. He walked into the living room. His mom was on one end of the sofa, reading. His dad was in his chair, staring at the blank TV. Without a word, Jacob placed the paper in his dad's lap. He placed the other in his mom's hands. Then he just stood there, his heart pounding. Mark looked down. Sarah looked down. The silence stretched for what felt like forever. Then, Mark's hand, rough and strong, began to shake. A tear fell onto the paper, smudging the word bike. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. She looked at her son, then at her husband, really looked for the first time in months. Mark stood up. He didn't go to Jacob. He walked over to Sarah. He looked at his wife, her eyes now filled with tears, and all his pride, all his defensiveness, just melted. His voice was a broken whisper. "Thank you," he said to her. "It wasn't for anything specific. It was for everything. For the 20 years. For the home. For putting up with him." Sarah couldn't speak. She just reached for his hand and held it tight. That was the moment the war ended. Not with a peace treaty, but with a thank you. They talked that night. Really talked. They apologized. They listened. Jacob showed them his half-finished project, and Mark, with tears still in his eyes, said, "Let's build it together. Right now." It wasn't magic. Old habits don't disappear overnight. But a new path had been cleared. They started a simple practice. Every Sunday dinner, they'd each share one thing they were thankful for about each other. It felt awkward at first. Then it became the most important part of their week. You see, that family war wasn't fought with anger. It was fought with silence. With the absence of appreciation. They all felt unseen. They all felt their efforts were going unnoticed. Jacob's simple lists didn't solve their problems. But they did something more important. They reminded them of their love. Gratitude has a way of doing that. It doesn't erase the bad, but it shines a light so bright on the good that the bad starts to lose its power. Maybe you're in a cold war right now. With a partner. A parent. A friend. Maybe the silence feels too heavy to break. So start small. Don't think about the grand speech. Think of one thing. Just one true thing. Thank you for making the coffee this morning. Thank you for listening to me vent last week. Thank you for being a reliable friend. Say it. Write it. Text it. These words, thank you, are not just good manners. They are a powerful acknowledgement. They say, I see you. I see what you do. And it matters. Your words might just be the gentle push that starts to melt the glacier. Because sometimes, the strongest bridge over our deepest divides is built with the simplest words, spoken from a thankful heart. If this story resonated with you, if it reminded you of someone you need to thank, share it with them. Sometimes a story can say what we struggle to. And remember, your words have power. Use them to heal, not to hurt. Thank you for listening.